Okay, it's October 24th, and this is the meeting of the Wolfeboro Budget Committee. And tonight we're going to look at the presentation of the Capital Improvements Program. Discussion items include the Town Manager's Report, Budget Expenditure Report, assignment review of updates for town departments, other business, which will include the 2024 Budget Review meeting schedule, and then comments by Member Paul O'Brien. And then there's also going to be approval of the minutes of August 3rd. Tonight we have Bobby Budman that's going to attend via her phone, which is remote. Good evening, Bobby. Can you tell us, you by yourself?
I am.
And where are you located in your home? Are you in your home or?
Bobby.
I'm in a room by myself.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, if I do the Pledge of Allegiance. Brian, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes? Yeah.
Mr. DeShanes, please.
Oh, I pledge
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Want to see it?
Okay. Any public comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Presentation of the 2024-2033 Capital Improvements Program. Thank you for coming tonight, folks. Appreciate it.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'm here, Tavis, also on behalf of the planning board, to submit to you the 2024 to 2033 capital improvement program. This was approved by the planning board after they held a public hearing so that the public could make any comments they wanted to. As you all know, this is an advisory document developed by the CIP committee to serve as a guide for Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee to use as you prepare the 2024 budget. This plan is only for municipal projects over $100,000. Any of the projects shown are also over 10 years by taking into consideration the needs of the town. What we've tried to do is to lay out all of the municipal programs that we know about and then lay them out in 1 to 10 years so that that reduces the impact of these programs on the town. On the Horizon projects, you'll see that their figures, those are only ballpark figures, but we wanted to make sure that there was something in there, so we sort of came up with what we thought was a good cost and then took it from there. One of the projects on the 2024 project list is the Libby Museum. This is less than $100,000, but the committee felt that this should be included, and because this is a town-owned building, and it is really our obligation to take proper care of the building. It's also shown, in addition to 2024, as a Horizon project in 2033. Also listed for 2027 is another ballpark figure, and that's for a community center at the electric building and the existing community center. We worked with the committee and we worked quite productively. I think we got through in pretty good order this time. And so now I'll turn this over to Tavis.
Okay. Just instructed to keep this brief, so let me know if you'd like more details. The text of this is basically the same format you've seen for a couple of years. Moving to page 3, you have the guidelines that the Board of Selectmen adopted for the 24 to 33 CIP. then really it gets most interesting around page 7. So again, the CIPC, or the Capital Improvement Program Committee, only voted on those projects showing up in the year 2024. So it took a lot of time to make sure that the projects on pages 7 through 12 correspond exactly with the first large spreadsheet you have toward the back. So as you move into page 13, you then get into the summary of the projects. One of the things I'm going to point out is added to the CIP master list as the first big spreadsheet is an asterisk under the column Capital Reserve Fund. So if a project is wholly or partially Capital Reserve Fund funded, there is an asterisk. I will point out that there's a double asterisk that shows up in the year on page 15 for a 2029 ambulance purchase. The double asterisk means the funding source is not yet identified. So as I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, are aware, there's the ambulance question that's going to be coming up. To ambulance or not to ambulance, and if to ambulance, how to ambulance. This number is put in based on fire chief's recommendation as it was submitted as a project request form. Other than that, this should be fairly straightforward as far as the first 16 pages of text. All generally summarized in the first spreadsheet that I've referred to a couple of times. The second spreadsheet you have in front of you is the Capital Reserve Fund planning document. It shows all of the capital reserve funds and anticipated expenditures, or funding and withdrawals through the same time period. And the last is the 2024 proposed capital improvement plan funding spreadsheet. So all of those should tie through with all the projects that are in the document. I believe those two documents were primarily to correlate with guidance from this committee. Yes.
One point. I think we've got a little problem here with the Libby Museum. In the text, it indicates it's being funded by the Capital Reserve Fund. There are no asterisks on any of the spreadsheets relative to the Libby Museum, and it's not indicated that it's to be paid, the $75,000 is to be paid through a Capital Reserve Fund, even though in the body of these, the verbiage, it does say that here. So I think we need to do some asterisking in the spreadsheets.
We will add an asterisk.
Thank you. Just to make it clear.
Go ahead, Paul.
On the sidewalk, was there a list of which sidewalks were on the list to get worked at, or did I not read that someplace? Is it someplace else?
No, there is not a list. And there's already a sidewalk subcommittee being created that would help define which sidewalks.
No, we're talking about
That's a
tables
different-
and chairs on the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's a different one, right? Yeah, that's tables and chairs on Railroad Avenue. This is, we want to park some money aside to repair our sidewalks. Do you know which one's the first, the second, the third? That's my only, later, that would be my question. And then on page 3,
I think that would be the discretion of the Public Works Director on
well,
sidewalks.
it would be something I would want to know about. And on page 3, just, I think you're a year early on the select people doing
How did,
something.
you're correct, they voted in 23.
That's just my point. But anyways, it would be nice to know what the sidewalk bill of materials would be. That would be, I think, helpful. I think it would help people when it comes to, assuming this gets to a vote, people would say, yeah, it's my sidewalk, I'll vote for that, you know?
That may want to be seen as how it's a capital reserve funded document, and I'm guessing that it's probably going to come up in a warrant article, and maybe that's the place to put the detail.
Yeah, whatever.
I would think,
Just
just so the
ask.
voters have an opportunity to say, oh, good, my sidewalk's.
Yeah, I just don't think you want to make it sound like it's a plug number. Absent detail, it sounds like it's a plug number.
Travis, what about the treatment plant? Where's that gonna be stuck in here? I think that's like 10 million or something. Where's that gonna come up?
I didn't hear the second part of that, John.
The treatment plant, I think that's projected to be 10 million, and am I missing it on the list here, or?
Wastewater treatment plant. That'd be 2028. 10,117,000.
Okay, which?
Take your master sheet and flip it over.
Oh, okay.
10-117.
It's under sewer, John.
It's a sewer expense, yeah.
2028, 10-117.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so if I flip this over, from 2024 to 2033, you're tentatively looking for $54,793,038 worth of projects.
Correct.
Okay? Yes.
And I don't know what the mechanism is, and maybe there isn't one, but let's assume just for the heck of it, that a project that has that size of a price tag, are you gonna start, is there gonna be recommendations to start accruing for that?
This isn't a funding document, this is an
I
expenditure plan.
understand, but I would, rather than just have, Part A, we don't talk about funding, but Part B, somebody else is gonna figure it out. I mean, can we try to collapse those two thoughts and say, you ought to think about accruing for that? That's my only point.
Sure.
Maybe there's a warrant article for a wastewater treatment plant
Accrual.
capital reserve fund.
Yeah.
So we do fund a warrant article each year for the wastewater treatment plant. Frankly, what we've been doing with that money is using it as a maintenance fund to keep the plant operational. The plant is an interesting creature. So we had the $10 million figure. We asked the engineers to back this off to a bare minimum upgrade of the plant. They backed it off to a bare minimum as this project was buttoning up. When they did that, they came in and said, yeah, we can do this project for $6 million, no problem. The problem is, if we do it for $6 million, we're not gonna get any loan forgiveness, and we're not gonna get any limited amount of grant money. So if we do the project at the $10 million figure, we're gonna get 50% loan forgiveness and be eligible for more grant money. So we thought we did the responsible thing in backing this project down, but the state funding mechanism said, oh no, we're not gonna give you that funding. So we've gotta make a decision in the next couple of years, which direction are we gonna head? Are we gonna go for the bigger bang for our buck, use the grant funding, and loan forgiveness, but have to raise more money? Or do we back down, ask for less money and receive no federal funding? It's a conundrum.
John?
Yes, sir.
Jim, on that, is it possible to extend the boundaries of the project? In other words, could a project on the wastewater treatment plant include the pump station at the pond? Something along those lines? Can we stretch this project out, or even up as far as the basins?
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, so you have a wastewater treatment plant project, and how far? What are the boundaries of that project? Are they just including the wastewater treatment plant itself, or can we include the pump station at the effluent pond?
I can ask those questions, but I'm pretty sure that it is plant.
Plant only. It's a big plant.
Processing.
It is. It is. But I can ask those questions.
So for 2024, Jim, are you going to be recommending that total of $5,425,000, or will that be lowered?
Isn't that the selectmen that got to do that?
$5 million for what?
Well, it shows us a total that we
The
can
total?
expect $5,425,000 Do you sense that's what it's gonna be for this year, or do you see that changing?
So-
Hopefully downward, or?
The initial blush for the warrant articles going in front of the Board of Selectmen will contain everything laid out in the CIP.
Okay,
From that point, we will make some hard decisions as to what are we gonna have to back off, what are we gonna have to increase, in order to get this thing through.
thank you.
One comment, if I may, John?
Yep.
I did some math today, taking out capital reserve fund items and so forth. Really, what we're talking about out of that $5,425,000 is $1,755,000 in general fund cash. The rest of it is either capital reserve funded or grants or their sewer fund, water fund, electric fund, whatever.
Bob, would that include draining all those, pardon the pun, draining those funds to zero?
No. No. The capital reserve funds would not be
Yeah.
drained to zero. But the general fund cash, which is the immediate tax hit, is $1,755,000.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any
All
other
set?
questions?
Yeah, but by the way, the CRF funding in total, the ones that have been approved and are on record as being approved for funding is $980,000. So if you want to say what the immediate cash implications are, take the 980 and the 1755, add them together, and that's the hit that we're going to face.
Well, it isn't, it is, this planning tool says that is the maximum we could face.
Correct.
The board hasn't even looked at this, so I wouldn't get everybody all worked up about the
No, I'm just
figures are
trying
right
to,
now.
I'm just trying to go through what's in the spreadsheet and let's take it apart a little bit so we get an order of magnitude on the things that are going to be a direct hit this year. Having
Okay, any other questions?
obviated the Board of Selectmen approval.
Thank you.
No. Thank you for your time and coming in, appreciate
Okay,
it. The work
thanks.
you do.
Yeah, hard work.
Okay, town manager's report.
Okay, so it's my understanding that you wanted me to give a quick overview of where we're at on the capital projects for 2023. I'm not gonna get into a whole lot of formal details as far as financing, because I'm not at that point, but I'll give you an idea where we're at on the project. Public safety building, as you can see, it's well underway. We experienced a pretty good hit. We observed a 30% increase in the steel for about $300,000. We're looking at other ways to make that up within the budget by leaning out some other items. Sewer line extensions, that project is underway. We've run into some significant ledge issues on Barney Road. We're looking at buttoning that Barney Road section up and next week going to Sewell Road to do that work. The hopes are that we can have a balance of funds left from this project and be able to reauthorize some of those funds for the some of the smaller sewer pump stations such as Clark Road, Elm Street. There's 7 other ones out there in the community. We'd like to be able to get some of those taken care of. Water main replacement on South Main Street. We've held a meeting with New Hampshire DOT, a number of stakeholders in town. In mid-November, we're going to hold another stakeholders meeting with Brewster, any abutters, the school district, the hospital, all the businesses, to start building that game plan. The goal is to mobilize for that project in the spring. Right now, we're on budget. I just actually found out that we may be able to receive 60% loan forgiveness as opposed to 50%. So that's a bonus for us. But the project costs are escalating, and we're looking at ways to be able to cut the scope if we have to so that we can get the work done. Fire truck lease, that's signed, we're just waiting delivery. Town road upgrades are well underway, and I believe they are getting ready to pave Trask, Upper Trask, Diamond Corner areas next week. Green Street is essentially complete, other than next year they'll come in and do a top coat of that. The mini excavators here being used pretty much on a daily basis. The MED boat has been ordered, and that summarizes the warrant article capital projects for 2023.
Quick question about the PD and the fire station. By making up the difference, that means you're making the project, taking money out of the project to move it to other things, is that the thing?
So what that really means, John, is you have two ways you can reduce, really, is a reduction of scope or a reduction of quality. And some of the items we're looking at is a reduction of quality.
Why would you do that?
Because we're not gonna come back and ask for another $400,000 on the project.
Reduction of quality.
So in other words,
Just as a general reaction, that's kind of like, why would you do that?
so in other words, instead of using like a Corian type of
okay.
countertop, we're gonna go with a laminate. We've made up, by value engineering, we've made up about $280,000. And a lot of those things as well are items that we can add in after the fact. For example, we removed the fence around the perimeter. That's something that if at the end of the project we've got contingency funds remaining, we can punch that in, no problem. I can't remember the other items right off the top of my head, but those, I can forward those value engineering items that were moved between myself and CCI.
Question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Jim, when you talk about quality vis-a-vis scope of work, is it a general statement when you say quality that those are really material issues? Difference in material quality?
Correct.
I mean, is that the general rule when we talk about it in relation to these projects, or is that just specific to the one we're talking about?
I think it's specific to this job.
Oh, okay.
There were a lot of items that we were able to look at and say, okay, look, we can reduce this mill work. We can reduce this level of countertop and make it happen. We've removed, for example, stair treads. We've backed out some of the rubber stair treads. Again, they're items that can be added in after the fact if we need be. Everything that we've removed essentially for value engineering other than the countertops are items that we can come in and plug in at a later time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Jim?
No.
Okay, let's move on to the budget review. How are the selectmen doing, Jim? They're going to be on
So
schedule, or?
I can give you a quick summary of where we're at on the budget. As you are well aware, my goal was to bring in a budget about 9.75% increase. We failed epically on that. We came in at 17.9% increase. We've characterized some of those major items. Tipping fees are up significantly, about $180,000. We have an increase in health care of about $400,000. Now, mind you, that we will get those numbers on health care in the mid-November timeframe, so hopefully we'll be able to back that off a little bit. Our debt service is increasing $560,000 based on voter authorizations which have taken place. We've identified a series of 9 or 10 different things that outline 15.9% of the increases. So when I handed the town manager budget off to the Board of Selectmen, we had put in non-union wages at 3.5% to match the AFSCME agreement as we did last year. When we did that and all the changes that we made, we reduced the budget by a whole $8,500. The Board of Selectmen to this point have made $130,000 in cuts. So right now, we're sitting at a 17.1% increase on the general fund. All-in budgets, we're at a 10.3% increase with all-in. We've got a couple of big budgets coming up on Thursday evening. I anticipate seeing some efficiencies gained there in the budget. And then we have a revisit night. We'll have our revisit night on the 30th. After that meeting, the following day, Casey and I will be feverishly getting everything put together so that our hopes are at the end of that week, you will have the budget books ready for you in printed and electronic format. And then you have your first meeting. I will not be here for that. It will be municipal, electric, and the welfare budget. There's pretty straightforward budgets at this point.
Also general government, Jim? I think it's general government, no, not.
No, that's just a title of welfare.
Okay, thank you.
So, at this point, we'll see what happens, but the Board of Selectmen have been making very diligent efforts to make cuts where they can be without negatively impacting the services that we offer to the community.
If you take everything we're committed to, what would be the increase? Things we can't get rid of.
So you're asking what the default budget would be? I
Basically,
don't
yeah.
think we can do that at this point, John. We can't give you that number.
John?
We've not worked it yet.
You haven't worked it, okay. Yeah, go
So
ahead.
you're asking, just to clarify, you're asking if we have fixed costs we can't get rid of, contract obligations and other debt service?
Yeah,
What would
all the
what would
warrant
be up
articles.
on the budget?
Yeah.
That's the default. In theory, that's the default number.
We'll wait to hear from you guys. I think I know the number, but.
I watched the selectmen's meeting the other night and I saw they are very diligent in making the cuts. I appreciate that. I know they always have been, but it was more obvious.
That's right, line by line.
Yep, that was very good.
You're looking at
It's
every
like you've
line.
always done it.
That's the hard ones.
I know.
One question.
Yes, Bobby, go ahead.
So my question is, Jim just said that there are 9 items accounting for the 15%. I don't see that in the paperwork anywhere. Is there a way to get a copy of those 9 items?
It's on the summary page of the online budget. There's a letter that I've drafted to the Board of Selectmen that has the breakdown of those items.
I can email you that, Bobby.
Right.
Our smallest cut has been $50, our largest cut has been $40,000 for individual items.
And I must say, they have a long list of revisit items.
Yes, we do. Depending on where it ends
That
up.
was good.
It's gonna slow down our books.
Nope, it's not gonna slow down the books. They're gonna get it done on the 30th.
So you don't see any problem with the schedule that we have, you guys meeting that? No, okay.
Not if I have to work all weekend, you'll get that book.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Regardless of what we do, we're going to take $475,000 is what our ambulance contract would be. Increase over the year before. Another item we have no control.
Right, no control of it, yeah.
So we've got a lot of those this year.
You got a question, John?
I'm sorry.
Valuation is also in there.
Yep,
Okay,
that's
sorry.
right.
Bob's got a question for you, Jim.
Yeah, Jim, December, July, there were declarations for the storms. Is Wolfeboro gonna receive any of that money?
We are.
Okay, and we don't know what that is yet, but.
We don't. Steve Randall's been working on that diligently. He had a meeting, I think it was Friday, with Homeland Security. The problem with those declarations is they usually turn around those
18 months.
18 months to 2 years.
18 months.
So those, yes, we are actively pursuing that money, and most of that is road repair.
I was gonna say highway guy, because that's in the lines, you can see it's probably the most beat up budget in the budget.
Paul?
Yeah, and this is just, looking out ahead. So it looks like you're gonna land this budget where you said you'd land this budget. And then all of a sudden, there's a step function increase in things, and that, you know, could be wages, negotiated health insurance and things of that nature. But have some of these other things, like tipping fees and all that, have some of these other things been creeping into the actual budget today? And if true, I don't need an answer now. If true, how are you absorbing that pack? Same would go for, you had this catastrophe up in North Wolfeboro. All that money had to come from someplace. How did you absorb all of that and still land your budget and do all the things you wanted to do? That comes later.
So I need to understand, are you talking about landing the 2023 operating budget?
Correct.
Or landing the 2024 proposed budget?
2023. You're gonna land the 2023 where you think you're gonna land it. You had these exogenous things happen, floods, roads getting just clobbered, tipping fees going up. These are all somehow getting paid for in the 2023 budget.
Not accurate.
Not accurate. So
So
these
the
are all
tipping
deferred
fees,
costs.
the tipping fees are based on contract, and that'll happen upon next
Okay,
year's
good.
budget.
All right, so that one takes place in 2024.
Correct. that's
What about all
proposed budget.
so later on, the roads?
The road items, quite frankly, we've been, correct me if I'm wrong, Casey, but we've been using some of the warrant article money
Yeah.
for roads, for those expenses, which, impacted our ability to do some of our engineering
Yeah.
and to do some of the other road work. The fortunate thing is, some of those
Had to be done anyway.
some of those were scheduled to be
Right,
done
had to be done
anyways,
anyway.
so it's a
Okay.
double-edged sword.
Eh,
So the takeaway is, we've applied for those monies.
18.
We're hopeful to get some of them back. They usually come back at about 75%, if I remember correctly.
Sure.
But I believe the Director of Public Works did the best he could with what he wanted, what he had, the money he had, but he actually didn't hit all the places he wanted to go because he was forced to hit the ones
So
that.
reduced scope.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Reduced scope, and the other thing was, he wasn't, he strategically did this in a manner so that he got the most traveled roads put together first, and then, he started to build them out so that when the school opened, he
Gotta
was
get ready for the buses.
ready for the buses, and he did a lot of it as well with staff without overtime. So he repurposed his own staff to do a lot of the work as well.
and he's actively going after grant money for a December 22 storm and the July 23 storm, so we're hoping to have some relief.
And we're also keeping an eye on overtime, which is another concern. And when we get to that, he's obviously, as Dave Ford did, isn't spending some lines if his overtime goes over.
Yeah, I was just reacting to the volume of damage and the amount of cost that Steve thought he had to expend in order to just get back to the buses. And that's a big nut. And how that got pulled up into the existing operating budget was really what I was asking for. So thanks for the answer.
Okay, anything else on the budget review status? How about expenditures? Casey, anything you should be made aware of?
Well, I'll just go through my normal spiel. I presented to the Board of Selectmen and now the Budget Committee, September 30th, 2023, actual versus budgets. The general fund is currently at 83%. A 9-month average would be 75, so we're slightly above the 9-month average. The general fund revenue is currently at 80%. One of our big drivers is motor vehicle, 82%. We'll be closing that gap as soon as the tax rate is set. Water fund spending is at 82, electric is at 78%, sewer is at 92, Pop Whalen is at 99. Sewer, this happened many months ago. We have put in the whole operation and maintenance contract, so the full year is encumbered. That's why that number's a little inflated. And we've had some emergency repairs and soft costs in Pop Whalen, so that's trending high also. Revenues for water at 92%, electric is at 78%, sewer is at 90%, and Pop Whalen's at 47%. Some other items we're keeping a close eye on is our fuel. Oil across the whole town is only at 62%, gas is at 59%, diesel is at 86%, that one we're watching, legal's at 59%. Overtime, as Selectman Murray mentioned, general fund is at 92%, water fund is at 97%, electric is 85%, and sewer is at 60%. To break down general a little bit more, police is at 80%, fire is at 82%, which is where we intend to see those two because we have a lot of holidays at the end of the year. And highway has used their whole overtime budget at 100%. So as was stated earlier, he'll have to underspend other line items if he has to use more overtime for the fourth quarter here. Pretty much that's it. We on the town side have all our documents into the Department of Revenue in order to set the tax rate. I don't believe school has, not the school local, school state has not done their appropriation, so we're waiting on that, and then for DRA to contact us to set a tax rate. The numbers that Jim said, the 24 budget at this point is up at 17%. That has nothing to do with the tax rate of 23. That is 24's appropriation. I hear some chatter out there. So the two are independent of each other. We do not know how much the tax rate is going to be at this time.
Questions for KC? Paul?
Do we have any, so you said school budget's not done yet, don't know where that is quite yet?
Not the school budget. The school has put in their documents, but because we're a regional school, they have to do the math and divide it by 5 somehow. So I think it's Department of Education hasn't done that yet.
What about the county budget? How's that bill? Is that done?
Yes, I don't have the numbers with me, so somebody can help me out. But yeah, we got that bill and that was not good news. I think it's up 600,000.
81,000.
Huh?
$681,000?
$681,000. So what?
On a percentage basis, what would that be?
I think it's 24%.
24%?
Yeah, what they did was they've been, I wish I had my notes in front of me. They've been drawing money out of their
Unbalanced.
Unrestricted fund balance?
for the last several years, and they've decided that they were going to cut that amount that they were drawing out significantly this year and pass the cost on. And it's because supposedly their fund balance is getting a little bit lower.
A little peaking?
Yes. So it went from,
Good
I think they were drawing 30.
Yeah, it's just a big number.
3,200,000 and change they drew one year, then they drew 2,800,000, and then it got down to now $2 million and it's dropped.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
So I believe the only piece is that Department of Education piece that we're waiting for. But then we get in a queue with DRA. So, you know, last year I think we had a tax rate on like November 4th. So it's coming soon, but the sooner we get it out, the sooner they're due, so it doesn't hit the next year, meaning January.
Jim, what do we have tucked away for extra money?
Not much.
So, we have traditionally used that extra money for a couple projects, one of them being the roads. This year, based on the audit report that was delivered last night to the Board of Selectmen, we have a fund balance of about $307,000.
Yeah.
That sounds worse than it is, and the reason is because of timing. So if you recall, one of the items was a donation from the Friends of Pop Whalen for the arena. The way that agreement was inked was the donation would come in July of 2023. However, the books were closed, so while we have an additional $2 million plus in fund balance, based on the audit report, it does not show that it's available based on the timing. So to answer your question about $307,000 in the general fund balance, MED, water are both much healthier.
$1 million for water, it's like 900 something.
Right.
$1 million for water, $1 million for sewer, and about $6 million for electric. So they're all doing well. So even though it's like 300,000, less than 1% right now. We already know we have 2 million more in the bank. The reason it does that is because we spent all the money and didn't get the revenue in, so.
Okay.
So it's a pure timing issue.
Well,
I was looking at your capital reserve fund planning document, and I noticed that there is some $758,935 of capital reserve funds that we have the money for, with no approved funding, with no plan for spending it, or what happens to that money sitting there in these capital reserve funds where there's no plan to use it? What happens to the money?
It just sits there until the board, who are most of the agents to expend, decide to spend it.
The board? Who? What?
Board of Selectmen are agents to expend on most capital reserve funds.
Okay. So we got the $758,000 sitting there floating around, undirected. What's the plan?
It's directed, it was approved by the voters
No, I
for the
understand
capital
that.
reserve
I
fund.
understand that, but the question came, John asked, what money have we got sitting around? And I'm saying you got $758,000 here that's undefined.
I have closer to like 2 million. Your list
That's what I have.
your list is only those that were part of the CIP project, but as of
Yeah.
July 2023, we have slightly over 2 million. The biggest one being 300,000 for fire trucks. That one definitely has a plan.
Libby?
Dispatch equipment, 300,000, that has a plan. Libby, 309,000, that kind of has a plan, or the plan's being worked on. So there are some that have plans and some that do not. But that would be a board of selectmen, whether they're putting money in or whether they have a plan to spend it in the future or the current timeframe. Is that true, selectmen?
It's true, and a lot of times we will put money in for a number of years. At the Abenaki, we're going to try to save for a boomer, and the equipment is to replace the equipment that was donated. So where's that? We have to do it. You get a spreadsheet that we put in all our presentations when we do the deliberative session, so you'll see it there.
So, in answer to my question, this document here does not include all the capital reserve funds.
That is
Is that what I
correct, and
mean?
that was the direction given to me in CIP. I have one that I get on a monthly basis, and I have one with all of them on there.
What's your, if I could, John, Bob, what's your theory? Unrestrict those monies somehow with voter approval and use them?
No can do, right?
What are you trying to do
The
there?
select board are the agents to expend, and there is a purpose for each capital reserve account.
I think this, and I'm not a lawyer here, but I think the select board could go to the voters and say, we want to
Correct.
unrestrict that money.
Correct.
But
We
my
can do that.
question is
Yeah.
that what you were kind of getting at?
Yeah.
But that would be like burning the furniture, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that result in what we just had at the county, where all of a sudden we're kind of thumb on the scale of the tax rate, and then once we run out of that furniture to burn, bam, up goes the numbers? That could happen, right?
It's true, and I'm not lobbying for using the money,
Okay.
I'm just asking where the money, what happens to that money? I just need some definition. I'm a dummy, and I don't know what happens to this.
It just sits there and collects bank interest.
It sits there, so you are correct. The town can put in a warrant article to change the purpose, to dissolve the account, or it just sits there and does pretty well. It's invested. It's not like town cash where we don't take any risk. It is in with Fidelity under the trustees of the trust fund, and it's usually earning pretty good dividends. So, but you can't just dissolve it. You can't just take the money out and say it's gone. You literally got to ask the voters to change the purpose or to dissolve it.
That answers my question, thank you.
You're welcome.
okay, any other questions for Casey? Okay,
Thanks, Casey.
any updates for town departments and their budgets that everyone's working with? Anyone have anything to report?
John?
Yes, sir.
Myself and Bobby Bodman are assigned to the Parks and Recreation, and we were interested in meeting with Christine and the director of Top Whalen and Abenaki, Chuck Smith, regarding, I was concerned about the new enterprise fund and I just wanted to be a little more comfortable that it was going to sustain itself. So we went up and we had a nice meeting with Christine and Chuck, and basically he has it spelled out in his 2024 budget. The budget is about $406,500, and then he feels that their revenue will be $447,779 next year. So I was much more comfortable that the enterprise fund would pay for itself. They have a lot of good plans on tap, and it's very nice. So that's it for me.
Great, thank you, Bob. Anybody else? Okay,
Thank you, Bob.
you all set, Bobby? Yeah.
I said thank you, Bob.
Okay. If we take a look at the schedule for our 2024 budget review. First one will be on November 8th, the public library at 6 p.m. We'll talk about welfare and the municipal electric fund, electric department. Any problems at all with the schedule? Okay, next is Paul O'Brien's asked to take a couple minutes to discuss the 2024 budget. Go ahead, Paul.
I'm sorry, John, I couldn't hear. To just pigtail on Bob Tucker, the only person I haven't met with yet, I mean, I met with him early in the summer, but I haven't met with Tom. And I took guidance from you guys to not meet with anybody until, they've had their day in the barrel with those folks over there. So I've kind of spent time. I met with Tavis, Randall, Moore, Sewer, those folks. Anyway, back in June, I gave you actually, can I back up? Before I begin, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen and the town manager and KC for this. This is a rock, for as long as I've been in this town, we produce an audit every year. And I think it's a transactional audit, right? You look at the key transactions, you kind of go through. It's a detailed audit. And, the last thing in the world you ever want to worry about is whether you're standing on squishy soil. And this, I think the taxpayer can be well comforted that we account for our business extremely well. And I've never seen a piece of paper that says qualification, you screwed up, you didn't do the right things. I mean, this is actually pretty dang good. So I will offer that as whatever I can. Thank you as a taxpayer. It's good to see.
Thank you.
So in June, I presented a document to all of you, and I'm sure you've all kept it close and near and dear to your heart, probably at your nightstand or on your coffee table. The document I gave you in June was really an output document. It was the sum of all the decisions that we, for those of us who've been in the town government for the past 5 years, have made. And if we all get back in a room, I'll get off the soapbox here in a second. If we all got in a room and had the town manager, the Board of Selectmen, the Budget Committee, and those of us who've been in town government for the past 5 years, and we asked ourselves the question, do we really think we spent money in the right direction? The answer would probably come out, yes. It probably would. We could probably nitpick and say we should have had a new bucket truck or something else, but we did. So that document really is what you could call either the numerator or the denominator of any equation you want to have financially about this town. And what I'm going to do over the next months is I'll update it as soon as Casey gives me some of her time, because she has stuff in her behind the firewall drive, and she has other priorities. I will update the document to reflect some of the decisions we made in the past year. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to look for some other facts. And I'm going to start offering to this team and to others, some facts about the financial situation of the town. No judgments. It's up to you to decide what the judgments are. But we have some facts out there. We know how many people live in our town. We know the per capita income in our town. We know how much leverage we're putting on each citizen. If we just did debt per head count, we could do that. We know how much what the median income is in our town. Median being half go in that direction, half go in that direction. So we have those kinds of facts. We also have, another way, at least I do, I have another way of looking at the way in which we've appropriated money. Over the past 5 years, we've raised through debt and through cash, we've raised $199 million through debt and cash, okay? We are not a small town anymore. That's big numbers, all right? 27% of that number, of the 199 million, came from debt over the past 5 years, all right? Over the past 2 years, we've raised 92 million of cash and debt. 35% of that number has come from debt. And so the immediate reaction would be, oh my God, we're running up the bill. Well, the reason we did the debt is, and Jim will hopefully give me a nod, we were being told you could borrow money at, what was the rate you could get for money? 3%, 2%, you could get money cheap. And then the other thing, and I remember when I was a select person, Dave Ford used to come forward with forgiveness grants, and you even talked about them tonight. You put some money down, you start a project, you go. So we were well incentivized to actually go out and rack up the debt. Now the problem with that is we've pushed up our operating expense. I don't know whether that's a good number, whether the operating expense is too big, not too big. I have no idea. But what I do plan to do is I plan to, during the budget season, and this is where I need some guidance from maybe the chair and you other folks. I don't think I'm going to spend a whole bunch of time telling people that I think they ought to reduce, a line item. If it's a general fund implication, I'm going to make recommendations, at least for me, that we reduce the general fund bottom line. And the reason I want to do that is by the time we get the budget, at least my understanding of this, is the department heads have done their work. Jim has, and his pen does get felt out there. He does do that stuff. The selectmen do their thing, and that's their priorities. Now, we may not agree with their priorities, but I just think that we ought to give the selectmen and the town manager an opportunity to go right back and reprioritize things based upon their budget and their operations. I will think that we probably ought to keep our eyes on, and I've looked at this thing, I want to tie revenues and costs together. I don't think we've done that in the budgeting process enough, and I think we should. And I'm going to be asking, questions about that. So this thing I gave you in June was not a one-time shot. I intend to update it. I intend to give it back to all of us. Use it, throw it away, use it for fire starting. I don't care what you do with it. But it's going to be something that I'm going to use to try to figure out, can we afford to do what we're doing? Are we making the right decisions? And challenge, our team over here to go back and reprioritize if they think they've made the right decisions, but we decide that we want to make some adjustments. So that was all I wanted to talk about for the 24 budget, John. Thank you for giving me the time.
You're on. Anyone else? Until I hear differently from the members, we'll continue on the way we've reviewed the budgets over the previous years, going through the line by line of each budget. Unless you guys want to change that.
Nope.
Want to change that?
Nope.
Okay, approval of minutes. Let's see, that should be for the August 3rd.
I got nothing, John.
Move to approve.
Second.
Anybody got any changes in there that need to be made or anything? Okay, so we've got a motion to approve.
Second by Walden.
Second.
Okay, get that.
Paul and Bob.
Yep,
Are you gonna do a roll call vote?
we have to
Bobby?
because Bob
Right,
is.
that's what I thought.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay, Bobby.
You got any corrections, Bobby, to the minutes?
No,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Leanne can do a roll call for everybody for the August 3rd, 2023 approval of those minutes.
Bob Tuffer,
Yes.
Bobby Goodman,
Yes,
John McDonald.
Yes?
Paul Mulholland.
Yes.
Brian Black,
Yes.
Bob Moman,
Yes.
Paul O'Brien.
Yep.
Brian DeChere.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, the next section is public comment. Anybody?
No public comment, but again, November 3rd is a Friday. by 4 o'clock is the deadline for you to have your books. I will be reaching out to you to tell you that they're done, hopefully before that, but that's my deadline.
And if they're not, I'm not coming back from vacation. Thank you.
We've talked about this 4 times now, Paul.
They ought to know.
You gotta keep us in suspense and tell us, a baseball game or a concert?
Pink Floyd concert.
What's that?
I'm going to see the Eagles, so your generation.
Thank you. Thank you.
They're retiring.
This is
my
this is why
generation
we do
and
line
your
by line.
So both ends of the spectrum, we're going to Metallica and the Eagles.
Oh, good.
So it'll be a good
Excellent, have
getaway.
fun.
Have you noticed that, have we adjourned?
What's that?
Have we
No.
adjourned?
No, not yet.
No.
I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Well,
So moved.
second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Bob, you good with that?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on November 8th.